I think the crypto market is about to enter the craziest phase we have ever seen. And this also means that I think we are entering the most abundant phase we've ever seen, meaning the gains right now for the average Joe are going to just be crazy. Now, I also do believe that there's some sketchy stuff going on in the crypto market right now. We've sensed some manipulation, and really, when you start breaking it down, it doesn't make sense for these coins to move down as much as they are doing right now. We're countering it all. We're looking at these prices and saying, screw every single one of you. We know what's going on. We're taking action. We will not regret anything. And with that said, I think many people will fade this opportunity because they're too skeptical. They look at it and think, it couldn't be that easy, right? And that's why most people, they fail when it comes to this whole trading stuff, because whenever the opportunity is too good to be true, they just fade away. When sometimes, when all the signs align, when everything just makes sense, all they had to do was just commit to whatever made most sense and stick with it. Not just keep changing your mind whenever the wind turns a bit. Right now, today, the market is falling a little bit, so they give up. They say, no, we're going down. No, remember the fundamentals. Guys, make sure you press that like button and make sure you keep paying a little bit more closer attention over the next few days towards these videos, because otherwise you might be missing out on a massive opportunity here. Really, these days are going to be quite crucial. And if you're looking for a platform to trade on, because I'll talk about my trades here a little bit today, I bought some more coins, make sure you check out the links down below. If you want the bots, I've got them all over on Payonix. You can copy them all with the link down below there as well. If you're just looking for a platform to trade that you can use from any country in the world, check out Blowfin. I've got a link down below right here as well. You also get some nice bonuses for signing up, and we'll be doing a competition for the team very, very soon. Check it out with the link down below. We've been going down for multiple days in a row. Even though when you take a look at all the news, we're in one of the most positive states ever. And so I've decided to again today pick up even more BTC, Ethereum, and some other coins here at these lows. For Bitcoin, I think I added about $75,000 today. For ETH, I'm not exactly sure. But as I described in my short form videos, mostly on TikTok and Instagram, I basically said I'm going to be buying ETH here. Why? Because it feels as if ETH right now has a way better risk reward ratio than Bitcoin does, meaning everybody seems to try and go for ETH right now. Tom Lee said ETH inflected at 4,064 Tuesday evening, right on the schedule of midweek as called on by Mark Newton. You know, I guess Thomas is quant. He says the tickers for his funds. And you can see right there, 4,064, basically within the range, not exactly, but slightly within the range of what was stated on August 19th, so a few days ago. But I actually wanted to show you this chart right here. So Miles shared, this is quite a crazy chart. ETH, as of this point, is now flipping Bitcoin for treasury company trading volume. To be honest, looking at this image makes me think ETH still has a lot of catching up to do versus Bitcoin and is the far less saturated trade. Now, even though I'm not necessarily saying that ETH is going to take over from here, I do believe it. And what I mean with that is I do believe that ETH right now, from almost any angle, is in a better position than Bitcoin is, because Bitcoin has already seen a pretty high multiple of its all-time high and ETH is not. And the nicest thing is the moment that ETH goes for that climb, which obviously we saw a glimpse of over the past 2 weeks, the moment it does, it kind of sets up most of the other altcoins, like XRP, like Solana, like Chainlink, to also start its crazy climb. But seriously, when you take a look at the crypto treasury companies and how they're going right now, obviously Tom Lee is putting a really freaking big dent into it by putting $5 billion in, and right now saying they're raising another $20 billion just to buy ETH. And as I described in my earlier video, it just makes too much sense to go a little bit crazy on ETH here. And I even think that right now at 43, you know what, let's just buy another, let's buy $15,000 worth just for fun, just to prove to you a point. We bought another $15,000 worth of ETH here. Why? I just want to quickly let y'all know that I still think that as of this point, ETH is quite cheap. I do not think that ETH has topped out at $4,700 or $4,800, let's call it $100. I think the next impulse for Bitcoin still is most likely going to be the opposite side, meaning the upside, right? Even though recently we've been going down. And here's a kicker. Here's a fun thing. Many people like to state that no, Bitcoin cannot follow money supply because 𝗷𝗂𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓. There's so many people that said that comparing Bitcoin to the money supply is the most stupid thing people can do. But then I look at how things have been performing, and really, it does become kind of funny, the correlation that we've seen right here. And thus far, Bitcoin has followed along really quite perfectly for such a long time. It do makes you wonder, isn't the next big move for Bitcoin still just, if we follow along, right, going to be up for the next couple of weeks, next couple of months, and then a pretty violent move downwards before, depending on what happens next, right, if we follow it on continuously and what happens to M2, still continuing up afterwards again? And in this, just looking at the timestamps right there, it could mean that we see a new high, for example, towards the middle of September, or potentially that being the original high, then a little break, right, going back, for example, all the way towards like $130,000 per Bitcoin, and then potentially making that new high towards maybe December, maybe January or so. There's a few charts, though, that are slightly different, and the main differentiating factor being what they've added on top of it. I think, for example, the previous one might have something added to M2 as well. In this case here, I believe this is a pure M2 chart, which basically just showcases when you really start breaking it down. This little move downwards that we've seen right now, even though this one is a bit delayed, I think this is still from a few days ago. Yes, you can see it's from about the 11th of August. Some like to say, no, we've deviated too far already from the general line. And I keep looking back by saying, well, really, when you start breaking it down, I've talked to you guys about this 1,000 times before. Bitcoin never really breaks the grand line. And why is that so crucial? Well, when you zoom out, I've got a little bit more of a clean chart right here. What is so beautiful about this is Bitcoin has been quite predictable throughout time. And right now, the reason I'm opening pretty massive trades at these levels with a pretty tight stop loss, for example, where would I get worried? Most likely for ETH, actually, on the short term, the moment we break below $3,800. That's like on the short term where I'm going to be looking at it slightly different. But really, where I think we might actually have been wrong about everything is actually if ETH goes below my entry, which is basically around the $3,300 mark. For Bitcoin, I was a really big fan of scooping Bitcoin up below 112,000. Was not fully possible for me, but right here, as I've stated earlier, at around the $112,000, $113,000 mark, even right now at 114, I still think we are quite cheap in the grand scheme of things. If we do not bounce here, though, we again start ourselves a little bit of a downtrend. And if we're not able to hold, let's just call it, the 110, something like that, we actually fall below back to the 100 and X's, I guess. I'm going to be honest with you, it would potentially get quite scary on the short term. Now, obviously, at the same time, though, my bots, as I've covered on here 1,000 times, are still just absolutely ripping right now. And that's one of the most beautiful things, the most certain things I've got this bull market, that regardless of what happens, specifically when the market moves down, my bots are still printing me like crazy. And I know many of you might be watching thinking, Dusty, why do you keep covering this? It's because I've been preparing you guys for these exact scenarios. If I'm just looking at my longs, if the price goes down, our XRP trade has gone from $400,000 in the profit to only $200,000 in the profit. If I had that in a bot, which, I've got pretty sizable ones. This is a $250,000 XRP bot, but in the meantime, you can see how much has been able to cash out. We're actually up $24,000 in the last 100 days just from the volatility alone, just from the XRP price going up and down. The position itself is right now, since we went from $2.11 to around $2.90, it's up around $32,000 on just 50K we put in. But this is just absolutely crazy, the multipliers we've been able to make. And that's why I just keep stacking these things up. Anyway, regardless, right now, almost every single one of the bots that we've opened over the past couple of months are doing pretty freaking amazing. And the thing is, even if they're not, all we got to give it is some time, because I think every single one of these, this is obviously my 10K 2 million challenge. Every single one of these, I think, will still turn around if I'm just a bit more patient. But I'm even thinking of doing another 10K 2 million challenge if you guys are up for it, specifically with Ethereum, or just opening a very large bot. For example, we open up a $1 million ETH bot. Let me know what you guys think is a better idea, just because I believe in Ethereum here that much. And I really think my exposure towards it is good, but could be significantly better. And I think the more I've got an ETH right now, the better I am setting myself up for. And I don't know, I feel as if I do not want to be in a position where over the next few weeks I regret not going a bit crazier. And sure, if ETH all of a sudden decides to make another break for it here, like what happened after Eric Trump tweeted about it, I'm not going to be too happy. But overall, if I still am, and this is not financial advice, no guarantee, 99.9% convinced that ETH won't actually have that crash here anymore, right? We could fall to 3,200, we could fall slightly lower, but no crash where I'm basically going to lose everything, specifically with my strategies I've set up, and most likely actually also not even get towards those levels. I still see the probability right now of ETH hitting 3,200 as so low. Why not act towards it? Which is why I'm going a bit heavier on ETH here. And you guys might find it counterintuitive. You might say, Dusty, aren't you the XRP man? Aren't you for some other altcoins? And I'll tell you, there's a good time for everything, right? And right now, it seems ETH is having its shining moment. I said this a few weeks ago, especially when the announcements were coming out of massive treasury, backings, let's call it. I'm going to say it right here, right now, again. Out of all the coins out there right now, ETH is the most juicy out of them all. Solana, funnily enough, has had pretty much a one-to-one correlation here quite recently. Almost anything I could have done here, I could have done for Solana too. But Solana is kind of copying ETH in some strange way with a lot more focus on retail, whereas ETH is obviously mostly going up because of the institutional side. And you can basically measure this one. Retail is kind of immeasurable. And altcoin season at its peak, I think Solana will end up doing better numbers than ETH, sure. But on the short term, I think ETH has better fundamentals, which is why I'm focusing a bit more on it. This does not mean I'm more bullish on ETH than on an XRP or a Chainlink. It just means that for this moment, I think ETH is the more logical play based on fundamentals. That again does not mean I think it's going to have the best gains. It just means on the short term, I think it has the least downside potential, with also very, very good upside. But again, the minimal downside is also a very key part. But also realistically, like I've said before, if I look back at my previous bull markets, I've told you this many times, if I stayed consistent and bought every single time these coins went down like 10% or more, just look at it. Go back at any chart for almost any altcoin. If you had in a bull market, in like the most bullish phase of it, if you had been a real big degen and bought really, really hard at any opportunity of a dip, if you take a look at Bitcoin's chart, you would have gotten a few opportunities, but really not that many, right? If you take a look at every single time it dipped, or matter of fact, even if you bought once a week, every single week it was down, you would have bought, 1 week right there, right? Once, which would have been a pretty amazing time to buy, even if you bought the next candle after the red. In this case here, you could have bought the freaking dip the moment it dipped like crazy. It was able to recover though, but still end up red. Even if you bought the next candle, you see, it would take 1 week before eventually you'd be in a massive amounts of profit. If we take this red candle, if you bought the next candle after the first red one, you bought somewhere in here, you might have bought at $35,000. Yes, the next week you would have still hated yourself at $29,000, but the next week afterwards, you can see how much up we were, right? And the same thing applies right there for this candle. Same thing applies right there for those candles. Price right there for that candle. It just did not apply for this one, because here you could have bought, let's say, for example, at $43,000. You would have been sitting at $29,000 pretty quickly afterwards, which is still a fairly large drop. Let's just call it 30%. But I've often stated that I think the minimal loss that, let's just call it, is potentially going to happen is a 30% drop from the high point. I do not believe the Bitcoin price will basically for the entirety until we see a new high of the season go more than 30% down from this high. I still refuse to believe it's going to happen. I do not think we will touch below $83,000. I'm not going to say ever again, but I'm just saying this whole cycle. So that basically means that any BTC I hold, I could better have in a 3x leverage position, because on average it's going to generate me 3 times the amount of returns with minimal downside. Because sure, on the short term, if the price goes down, it's also threefold, right? But as long as it does not go below, let's just call it $83,000, 33% down from the highs. And from this point, if we were to open it up right here, let's just say about 33% down will be $76,000. I just do not think it's going to happen. But even just if we were at 5x positions, right, and I'm at 15x leverage position, but let's just say 5x, we go down 20% from these levels. We're talking about $91,000 per BTC. I do not think that's going to happen. That's my baseline. So basically a 3x Bitcoin long, which positions, just holding spot, for example, will outperform that? I still think almost every single thing, which one has minimal downside. The only one where I can kind of see similar downside, so very freaking low, is Ethereum. Whereas all the other ones, they will outperform, but they also have more feasibility to get some sort of scam wake going. And like I said at the start of the video, the market is in a strange manipulatory state. This is one of the first times that Bitcoin actually did not instantly go on a massive surge the moment that the high was broken, right? The previous local high is one of the first times. We saw a pretty good surge, sure, but it's still kind of weak, right? As the price only went up, what? Let's just hear about 15, 16% or so. We thought, based on the previous times that it happened, that the market will move up a lot more. I guess the only other time is like right here with this move, but I could still consider the fact that this is not that big a break, or maybe not even big a break enough, where the real break is still yet to happen. And I think the moment that Bitcoin starts its next rally, it's most likely going to be a pretty quick move, perhaps even towards the 140s, 150s, then probably another good correction going or so. And if it's going to happen tomorrow, then week after, or towards the end of the year, nobody really knows for sure. All I'm going to tell you right now is if you're not going a bit crazy mode, you're going to regret it, I think, for a long time. It's no guarantee, but that's what I think about the situation. And sure, I'm still buying XP. Sure, I'm still buying all the other coins. But for the most part, I'm focusing mostly here on ETH with a slight edge towards BTC. And if we get another good crash going here, guys, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to be taking this with both arms. I'm going to be going a bit crazier than I usually go because, as I said before, it seems like the market is too primed. The announcements are too good. And it seems they really want to shake you out, even though they're buying freaking tens of billions of dollars worth of ETH, which, like I told you, What Bitcoin took a very, very long time, took many, many years, with Ether trying to do in 1/5 the time, maybe even less. I think this is going to be a crazy race. I think this is going to be a crazy exponential move. And the stupidest thing I could ever do right here is fade that opportunity. Fade the fact that they're all announcing they're going to be buying and just ignore it. I think this is a golden goose, a golden chance. Too many people are too skeptical to think too much with their forward-moving brain. They should kind of think backwards a little bit. If so much money is going to be inserted into the system, why go against that? Even if you end up getting wrecked, and this is my honest thoughts to you, I'm always like this. Even if you end up getting wrecked, wasn't it the greatest freaking chance? Because there's so much on the sidelines. They're raising so much money to buy it. Isn't it a better idea to just go with that flow? And even if you're wrong, at least you freaking tried. Then go against a very logical, very big up. Those are my thoughts on the matter. That's about it. So you guys get another one. I don't think we're going to fall that much at all if we do get another little dip going. Again, I'm not saying we can't fall like 10, 15, maybe even 20%, right? But I'm telling you, that's like my baseline for this entirety of the run. If we go further than that, it's going to be some really crazy time because I can't think of any catalyst except for some country saying the most heinous type of thing. Or there's one counter. Right now, most cryptos, by the way, they're falling because the stock market is falling. If all of a sudden we see something crazy happen at the FOMC meeting, right? All of a sudden they decided to up the rates even more. There's panic in every market. That's the counter. But the probability of that is pretty small. I'm too freaking bullish on it. You can't talk me out of it. Yeah, and I think, honestly, I just think that this dip is like a freaking blessing. Look at this. Look at how juicy it freaking is. I'm buying every single one of these, even though I didn't even want to buy Bitcoin. I put a few orders in here, by the way, for in case it happens if I'm asleep. It's very minimal orders. It's not going to do much as we bought $75,000 today at this level. I think my average price probably is like $113,000. It's not as low as I could have gotten it. I tried to buy it 100 to 12, but sometimes your average price goes a little bit higher than that. But still, some might call me crazy if all of a sudden the price goes down more. I just keep calling it calculated moves. I think it was worth it to try our luck right here, trying to basically catch that little double bottom here. And I'm going to be trying this every single time because thus far, it's always worked out beautifully. That's about it for my thoughts. Yeah. If you also want to trade some links down below, you can claim yourself some nice bonuses just for signing up. Check it out, and I'll leave you guys again for another video. Make sure you press the like button, by the way, if you didn't do it yet.